All right, everybody. So we're going to get started. So we are going to first introduce everybody that's on the call, and I'm going to keep looking to see who the attendees are. So I'm Jennifer. I'm the owner of Water Homecare. And let's start with, Jennifer Gibson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Gibson. I'm with Ascension-Seton Hospice. And we are really excited to be part of the sponsors today, and then also have one of our wonderful team members provide the presentation today. And I will introduce him after everybody else gets a chance to say hi.
Perfect. All right, Sharon.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending. Blue Water Home Care, as Jennifer says, we're skilled personal home care providing individualized solutions to home care needs, enabling your loved ones to age in place or wherever they choose.
Thank you. And Patience, Accountable Aging is one of our sponsors as well. Tell us about you and your company.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patience Buchanan, longtime social worker in Austin, been with Accountable Aging now for many years. Before Accountable Aging, I was a care manager with another company, and then we merged. Accountable Aging's been around since the early 2000s, providing aging life care services is what we call it. It used to be called geriatric care management. So your families or you can call us and we can help them navigate this crazy healthcare and support services world.
Well, we are so happy to have you. You guys provide amazing service, so we love working with you. And then I'm not sure, there's a gentleman, but there's a female's name, Sandra, under there. So can you introduce yourself? There's a gentleman. Yes.
Family.
Hi.
Valerian Health and Hospice. I was invited by Sandra Brower.
Fabulous. What's your name?
Winston Stanley.
Hi, Winston. So what do you do for Valerian?
Chaplain.
Awesome. Well, we're really happy to have you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right, Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm with Texas Home Health Hospice. I just saw something on Facebook about, do you always feel the need to wave at the end of a Zoom? And I do, and now I feel the need to wave at the beginning as well. I've been with Texas Home Health Hospice since November, and I work in Southeast Austin. And especially lately, issues of culture and race and how those things impact end-of-life care specifically, of which spiritual care is a component in hospice, are things I'm really interested in learning more about. So I'm looking forward to today's presentation.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And Jane, I've never met you, but I've emailed with you. So do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, there she is. Oh, ask to unmute. We'll give you a sec.
Oh, this is Jenny Ebes. Sorry. For some reason, the audio went out and I didn't hear my name.
That's okay.
I'm with our family home care, and we are a PAS service. We're family owned. We service the Austin area, and we are keeping Austin aging at home.
Awesome. So good to see you.
You too. Thanks for hosting this. Awesome.
You bet. All right. Who have we not? There's a couple people logged in as Sandra. So if there's anybody that hasn't able to introduce themselves. I'm trying to think.
Hello, my name is Jeanette. I'm with Seton Hospice. I'm a volunteer coordinator and a social worker. So thank you for the invite.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And somebody else. I see somebody that works with maybe Jennifer Gibson. There's somebody. If anybody else wants to jump in, just want to say hi.
Annette works with me, so I think she's the one that that has my name at her.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, Annette.
So I don't know who. There's still somebody that has Sandra under them that hasn't introduced themselves.
Maybe they just did. Okay. All right. Well, feel free to jump in. If I see any new people, I'll make a little note and we can have them. So, Jennifer Gibson, do you want to introduce Michael, our speaker?
Absolutely. So I mentioned that I'm with Ascension-Seton Hospice, and I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary at the 1st of June. And I love our team. We really have the patient is first with us, and we cover from South Austin, the Butte Kyle area, to North Austin, Georgetown, and all the way out to Burnett and Marble Falls. And our chaplain is a huge part of our team, and he was so wonderful to agree to do a presentation on what I think is really a very applicable topic for today. So I'm going to introduce you to Michael Carter. He's been with Ascension-Seton Hospice for 3 years, and I'll let him tell a little about himself.
Thank you, Jennifer. I want to start with the fact that I've been with Ascension-Seton for about 3 years now and do absolutely love what I do. For those that work in hospice, trying to explain why we love what we do is sometimes an interesting thing when we tell others what we do. And the comments that we get sometimes are, why would you enjoy that? Well, you just sort of have to be in it to be able to understand it. It's a real special place. My background is, I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. So I am really a beach boy at heart. Still have sand running through my veins, I like to believe. Grew up there, graduated from the College of Charleston with a business management degree. And I wasn't sure what to do with that, afterwards. So a friend invited me to work in a jewelry store. And that's what I did for a couple of years. And then I decided I want to do it on my own. So I started up my own jewelry store.
So cool.
For many, many years. Yeah. Listen, my wife absolutely loved that. She was decked out, I'm telling you. So I did that for a number of years. And I began to feel that God was calling me towards something different. So I sold my store, all my contents, my inventory, equipment, and moved up to Harrisonburg, Virginia, and went to a seminary there, got a master's degree in Pastoral Ministries there. Went from there over to Richmond, Virginia, and planted a church there, and was there for a few years, and felt it was time to move on again. So there was an opening at a church back in my home state of South Carolina. So I went down to Greenville, South Carolina, which is in the upper part of the state, but still close to the beach, by the way. So I pastored a wonderful church, had about 350 families there. It was a great place to be, and was there for many, many years. My wife and I had a big house. We had 4 children, been married for 35 years. All those kids grew up and moved out. So we're trying to figure out what we needed to do after, with this big house and what comes next and so on. And at that point, basically, this is sort of what got me here, was my sister called me, and she had leukemia. She said she had maybe a year-ish to live. I'd not seen my sister in a number of years, so we sold the house, packed up. We did live briefly in Kansas City with my wife's family. So we moved to Austin to be with my sister, who lived in Cedar Park, and was blessed to be with her and to reconnect. And it was just a fantastic time. And was blessed to be able to be there in her living room when she passed away. That was about 3.5 years ago now. She had a hospice aide there. I'm not sure what hospice agency that it was now, but the aide had provided really, really top-notch care. And that got me to thinking about hospice. So I went online looking for places that might be hiring. Seton Hospice was hiring, and boom, I went down there for an interview and came back to interview with the clinical director the next day, and they hired me on the spot. So I've been there for, I think I started about 2 months after the company started, and have just thoroughly enjoyed my time here. So I do both the chaplaincy work and the bereavement coordinator as well. So that's enjoyable for me. with this issue of culture is a really big thing for me, and I'll explain why in just a moment. When I grew up in Charleston, this was back, I was born in 58. There was still a huge amount of racial conflict there, being in the Old South. And I grew up in a very divided home on the subject. My dad was a pure racist, no bones about it. My mom was all the way on the other side. So as a kid, I probably had a choice to go, am I going to go with dad's side or mom's side? And I went with mom's side. And I was so blessed by how she introduced me to what was going on, because she would take me to, for those of you who know F.W. Woolworth store, it goes way back. That was the site of the first sit-in, where 4 Black college students went and sat down and then wouldn't get up until they were served. And the Woolworth store had, just like that one, had a diner when you walk in, and there was a sign that said whites only. And if the blacks wanted food, there was a window off to the side that they had to get served through that. She took me back to the bathrooms that said men, women, and coloreds, to the water fountains that was whites only, and then one that said coloreds. And boy, did that stuff impact me, that these folks were being treated as less than human beings. So when I went to pastor a church in Greenville for the first time, I was really blessed that this was a wonderful mixed race, mixed nationality congregation. We also had quite a few mixed race marriages who had been asked to leave other churches in the area. Very, very sad. And they heard about Mount Zion, which is the name of the church, and they came over here where they were welcomed with open arms. And we had people from all around the world there as well. When I think of culture, I'm sort of defining this as a lot of different things you can look at it, but I'm thinking of a place of origin, of race, of gender, etc. There, the place of origin is a real important one to me, because I've traveled all over the world and have embraced a whole lot of different cultures. Been to the former Soviet Union back in the mid-70s when I was in college, Italy, Guatemala, Haiti, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Panama. And just love other cultures, love to meet other people, and understand where they're at and their history as well. The culture in which we were raised or work can greatly influence our beliefs, our values, and behavior. And I talked about my dad and his racist background, his racist beliefs. He grew up with a family that also held the same beliefs. And it could have very well been perpetuated in our family as well. And I'm very thankful, as I said earlier, that it did not. Assessing our individual heritage is the first and most important step to identifying what may block our communication with and care of another person from another culture or race. So just being able to understand what our background is, because sometimes we may think that we're being open-minded, that we're saying things that are going to connect, when in fact they may not be doing that. And it may be because of the culture that we grew up in. And being able to look at ourselves is a very important thing. There was a phrase that my dean at the seminary taught that has stuck with me ever since then. And it's called looking in the mirror. Being able to take a hard look in the mirror at how we're coming across, who we are, what our beliefs are. One of the things that has worked well for me, I think of my wife as a mirror. Sometimes when she and I are ministering together, then I'll ask her later, honey, how did I come across there? And she'll give me some affirmations, And then there are areas where she said, Michael, I really think you could have done better with that. I think your choice of words were poor. Now, I can choose at that point to get defensive and try to explain that away, or I can simply chew on those words and think them through. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. And when my wife, I'm not just pandering to the ladies here, but when my wife says something like that, 99% it's going to be true. Because she knows me like the back of her hand as I do her. And I trust her to say those things correctly. So I would encourage those here to ask others who are in your life that you trust to maybe do that with you, maybe partner up with someone, and ask them after you've been with a patient, after you've been with anyone, and say, hey, how did I come across in there? I'm not feeling really good right now about that. And listen to them. Once again, don't get defensive. Just listen, think it through, and listen to your heart and see what comes out. That's big. Works also great in marriages, but that's not what we're talking about. Dealing with the culture thing here, this is especially an important one. So if you've got, I don't know, let's say you've got somebody from India that is a patient. That would be a really good thing to maybe, if you could get somebody else to be in the room with you while you're doing whatever you're doing and you're interacting with that person, to be able to ask them afterwards. So how did that come across in there? Because, you know, the language barrier is difficult. Was I patient? Was I a good listener? Just how did that whole thing come across? And see how it comes across to you. Listen very carefully. I use a spiritual assessment with patients so I can find out some more about their background. I've got a one-page assessment now, and I'm looking at, well, I am adding some things to that. So it'll be about a two-page thing long. And the second page is going to be dealing with culture and asking the patient, how would they like to be treated from a chaplain perspective? Excuse me. I'm on some medication here that gives me a stuttering problem sometimes. Okay, here's some tips to go by in the healthcare setting. One of the things I'm going to turn around that is a common phrase is to treat others as you would want to be treated. I think most of us have probably known that since we were children. I'm going to turn that around here. Don't treat others as you would want to be treated. Don't treat others as you would want to be treated. Try to learn how they want to be treated. And that may take a little bit of probing, because you may start a conversation and get talking about their background, their history, and things like that. And it may take a while to find out how they want to be treated. They may not even know. But to find out what that is, make some notes on that, and then make sure that that's what you do when you follow up with them. Addressing people, this is a personal thing. Since I was raised in the Deep South, I feel it's important to address people by their surname unless they tell you otherwise. So if you're, let's say, 30 and you've got a 60 or 70-year-old patient, then to me it's very appropriate to refer to them as Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Jones. And that sort of shows a sign of respect. Now, that's what I was taught in the Deep South. We always said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, Mr. Jones, etc. I still think that holds true. And especially folks that are older, they appreciate that. Now, if they tell you, you know what, you can call me Mary, that's great. Just make a mental note of it, and you can do that. But until then, just show a little bit more respect by using that. When my mother was in the hospital, and before she passed, this has been about 15 years now, there was a young nurse's aide that came in. I don't remember what she was doing, but she came in and she not ever met my mom, and she looked at the chart and she said, "Hey, Barbara, what's up?" Well, that didn't register with Mom well at all. she really wanted to be referred to as Mrs. Carter and have a little bit of respect. And that put up a wall between she and the nurse's aide. And that's not something that we want to happen at all. There's another one here that I actually saw in an unnamed nursing facility back before the COVID thing hit. When you're speaking to a patient or a caregiver who has a limited knowledge of English, please don't shout, please. They are hard of understanding, not hard of hearing. I've seen this with tourists overseas. They're trying to talk to somebody in Italy, and for God knows what reason, they raise their voice and they shout as if somebody's going to be able to understand their English when it's at a larger volume. Not gonna cut it. Every culture has its own rules for touching and distance. Here in America, we tend to like our space, so don't get too close to my nose. Keep a reasonable distance while we're talking. And there are other cultures that they will press in, and they will get within maybe 6 or 12 inches of your face while they're talking. It doesn't mean they're angry. That's just how their culture works. When I came back from Italy, I was on a 3-week trip there to help plant a church. And my wife said that all of a sudden that I was talking really close to her, just a few inches from her nose. I had not even picked up what the Italians do. That's how they talk, or the ones that I was with anyway. And I had to back off because I didn't want that to be transferred to the other relationships that I had. I had gone to attend a death, I guess about 2 years ago, for a Muslim family. And I was really pleased that they wanted me to come over. And the patient was really declining quickly after they came on hospice. So I knew some things about the Muslim faith, not much about the end of life traditions. And I met the imam, who was a pastor there, and he took me off into another room and we talked, and he wanted to hear from me and I wanted to hear from him. It was very important, I think, that as a chaplain, that he understood where I was coming from, that I wasn't going to come in there with a big Bible and whack them on the head and try to convert them, that I was there just to give support in whatever capacity that they wanted. So I try to do that. And he filled me in on some, what I would call trivia, some small things about their faith. He pointed to the bed that this lady was on, and he said, notice that the bed, the head of the bed is facing east. The bed is facing toward Mecca. Well, I was real surprised to hear that. I didn't know that. And he said, if you ever drive by a Muslim graveyard, you're going to see that every headstone of a good Muslim is facing toward Mecca, towards the east. And I was in, I think it was Dallas a couple of years ago. And sure enough, I drove by a graveyard and every single headstone was lined up in perfect order to the east. And without even seeing a sign, I knew what type of a graveyard that was. So, there's just little things that when you learn about people, that you're better able to serve them, you're better able to love on them, to be able to minister to them, to give them the kind of care that we can possibly give, to give the best kind of care that we can possibly give. I've got 6 things here to provide sensitive care that I want to go over. Different is different. It's not right or wrong. Because somebody thinks differently, votes differently, behaves differently, doesn't necessarily mean that it's right or wrong if that's not how we do things as Caucasians or Blacks or Jews. It doesn't matter. If they do it differently, it's just different. Once again, let's not judge about being right or wrong. I hope that makes sense. Let's recognize that each of us is unique because of our own culture and experiences. I touched on that a little bit earlier, but it's something to simply sort of burn into our memories that we're aware of there. We're all more comfortable with what is familiar to us. I think probably everybody here may agree with that. We tend to even gravitate towards people who are similar to us, who think the same way that we do. Unfortunately, we tend to gravitate towards people who have the same color of skin, who maybe have the same faith or no faith. And anybody that is different is not somebody that we naturally may gravitate towards. I try really hard to make sure that my wife and I have got a circle of friends of all kinds of backgrounds. And I'm telling you what, I so enjoy that. So enjoy it. When I'm with a patient, just like the Muslim family, I love to hear their background and hear what their culture does, thinks. And it's just a fascinating place to be. Our patients and families can be our best teachers in the area of cultural diversity. Listen and ask questions. Now, I realize that asking questions, you could open up a Pandora's box of all types of information there, and you could end up going on for hours. So we got to be careful. Obviously, if you're restricted on time, then you've got to be obviously aware of that. You may not be able to spend 3 hours with a patient and hear everything out. If you can, that's wonderful. You know, as a chaplain, I can certainly do that, and I want to do that. But if you're in a hospital setting, if you're in a skilled nursing facility, and you've got a lot of other patients, once again, just try to maximize your time and get what you can get out of them. And then the next time you go back, maybe you get a little bit of more stuff. And when we know about people, we're better able to take much, much better care of them. Don't ever be afraid to ask, please. Sometimes I forget that, but that's really how we find out about our patients. We find out about their backgrounds, but many people won't just start talking about that. We have to ask leading questions, questions that don't require an answer just as yes or no, but something that is going to get them talking. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. Remember that it's about them, not us. I'll say that again. Let's remember that it's about them and not us. And in order to be able to give excellent patient care, that's something to keep in mind for all of us. It's real easy to fall back on the wrong way there and simply think that, you know what, I really just want to talk about me. Or they may say something and then we'll go on for 5 minutes while they talk for 2 minutes. And generally speaking, a lot of our patients may not be that interested in knowing that much about us. So it's about them. So get them talking about themselves. I want to just summarize a few things that I had mentioned here. And that is the phrase, different is different. It's not necessarily right or wrong. Don't be afraid to ask, even when it may be uncomfortable. And it's not about me. There's a couple of resources that I want to give you as I close here that you can get. The one that I use primarily is called Cultural Sensitivity. It's a little spiral-bound book, and it gives a lot of the traditions and beliefs about different cultures in there. You wouldn't think that a book that's just that thin would have that much, but it does. It's a wonderful book. And once again, the name is Culture and Nursing Care, a pocket guide. And like all of the books in the entire world, it is available on Amazon. The other one is Culture and Religious Sensitivity. That's Culture and Religious Sensitivity. And it says a pocket guide for healthcare professionals. So that's Cultural and Religious Sensitivity, a pocket guide for healthcare professionals. That is available on Amazon. I saw that they only have 6 copies left. If if you are in an administrative role, maybe it would be good to have, I don't know, some of these booklets laying around. Maybe have people on your staff check them out for a couple of days and learn, have them there as a reference guide, and to be able to think, okay, now we have a Muslim patient over in this room. Where's that book again? I just want to read up on that quickly so I can understand where they're coming from. All right, that's everything that I've got. Looks like all of the pictures, the faces are gone. It's just me.
You can't see us?
There you are. Now I can see you pop back in.
It's probably because I'm talking. Hold on here. Let me see if I can can you see everybody's faces?
No, I can only see you and me.
Oh. All right. Whoa.
It may be Jen too, because I got kicked off a couple of times and had to sign back in. So that may be why, if other people got kicked off, maybe their photos didn't pop back up when they came in.
Not really. I could see practically everybody.
Hi there.
If you swipe to the side, it shows more individuals.
Michael, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
I was just going to say probably the same thing you are. That's great information. I'm sorry I missed a few minutes of it when I got kicked off, but I wanted to, I think it always helps to have stories, true life stories that we've experienced. And something similar happened to me with one of our patients. I went to meet with her and her daughter, and the patient speaks very little English. Her daughter is fluent, and so at a certain point during the meeting, the patient, even though she was sitting there at the table with the daughter and I, and we'd been talking, but at a certain point, the patient seemed to get agitated and was saying something. And of course, I didn't know what she was saying. And it turned out she was telling her daughter that it was upsetting her that I was looking at and addressing her daughter and not her.
Yeah.
Even though her daughter had to translate everything I was saying, she was frustrated that I wasn't looking at her as I was speaking and only looking at her daughter or addressing her daughter, which subconsciously I didn't even know I was doing. But I think that was just, that was who I felt like could understand me. So that's who I was looking at. And it really upset this patient. And of course, then I apologized. And from that moment on, I looked at her, and the daughter just sat next to me and translated. So that was a real eye-opener for me, that you really need to be more aware of, when you're addressing somebody who may not speak the same language, that they still want to be treated as the primary, person, and as, as if we really, and know that we care about what they say and what they're doing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
That's really good, Jennifer. Thank you.
Michael, do you have any any open-ended questions that you use, when you're going to see a client that would help, that all of us could potentially use to help them, know how they want to be treated, or, just to try to gauge those things that you may not know as you're going in? Because sometimes when we get referrals, we don't know everything about the client or their family. And what are some open-ended questions that might be helpful for us to sort of understand maybe their spiritual needs, but also cultural needs as well?
Yeah, using the spiritual assessment tool is great to be able to get a background information on them. Sort of gives a snapshot of who they are as far as faith goes.
Could you share, I don't know what you're able to do, but could you share, if you sent it to me, I can add it. I can also add the links. I typed everything down. I'll add the links because we're going to put this on our Facebook page, and everybody can link up to it as well, because these books seem great and they seem short and to the point. Yeah. But if you could share your spiritual assessment tool, I think that we could all, switch it up or whatever. I don't know if that's okay. We would love that.
How do I get it to you?
Just email me. It's Jen. And if you want, Jennifer has my email.
Okay. All right. Let me write that down.
And if you want to just do a hard copy, Michael, you can give me a hard copy of it and I can email it out. So whatever's easiest.
How about if I scan and email it to you, Jen?
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, wrong person, but we're both Jen.
Well, I'll send it to Jennifer Gibson, and since I have her email address, and we'll go out from there. Usually I will start the conversation out by asking them to tell me about themselves. And specifically, I'll say, tell me about your background and the things you've been interested in through your life. And that will usually open up most people right off the spot, right off the bat. And that gets them going. And then I don't get into the spiritual thing right off the bat. I will usually do the spiritual end of things towards the end.
Okay.
So I keep my assessment tool in my briefcase, and then I pull it out towards the end. And before even doing it, I'll ask them, tell me about your faith background. Things like, did you grow up in church? Did you have a good experience, bad experience? And those type of things get me get the conversation going. And they may be people who really basically have no faith at all. And they may say to me, well, I don't even know why you're here, because I don't really need a chaplain. And I said, well, would you just like a friend, somebody to sit with? Because I'll be glad to come over and just talk and listen to you. If you want to play cards, if you want to watch a John Wayne movie, we can do that. You seem like a really nice guy. Hey, how about doing this? Just do it for me, all right? And then they'll laugh. And quite often, that whole wall just came right down. And off we go from there.
I love that.
There was a second question that you had. I don't remember what that was.
No, you answered it.
Okay.
You answered it.
Okay.
What other questions? I know other people have got to have questions.
This is a really tough subject, especially with all that's going on in the country right now. A lot of the issues.
I know people have questions. I know you do.
I think it's really great that you lead with questions. I think that as professionals or clinicians, it's really important that we create the space for these intimate, vulnerable conversations to happen, but also give permission for people to step into that space, because I can't think of a lot of places where that happens. Whether they do it or not is up to them, but we've created that safe environment, and I think that's a great thing. To your point about listening and asking for feedback, though, and about people not knowing what they don't know, how would you suggest that people take responsibility for what they don't know, like going beyond my own culture, my own experience and perspective to with intention and mindfulness, learning more about other people's perspectives from the standpoint that if I do that, then I'm less likely to get the feedback afterwards. Yeah, that didn't land so good, and here's why.
Yeah. Finding somebody, let me make sure that, because there's several questions in there, but the issue of finding somebody that you do trust, who will say the hard things to you, is really big there. What was the last question that you asked?
The question is, what would you suggest that we do to take responsibility for what we don't know and getting beyond our own cultural perspective?
Okay. For me, studying, I hope this makes sense, studying about other cultures makes me realize sometimes how little that I do know. I like to read about what other folks believe, about their habits, even their dining habits. One of the things that I do, and this may sound silly, but one of the things that I do is I love to read through National Geographic. All right. And of course, they cover cultures all over the world. And it's amazing sometimes when I read through things like that, well, I sure thought that those folks were like blank. And I realized that I'd formed an opinion in my mind that was wrong. And it changes my perspective. there. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
It does. It brings to mind conversations I've had in my personal life lately where I'm also kind of an academic and I like reading. I also really hate being wrong. And so for me, reading, there's less risk of emotional exposure in reading something.
There is.
And I had Black friends that say, why are you reading about racism when I'm right here? You could just talk to me and I could tell you what my experience has been. And it's like, yeah, but that feels so much more risky. I might say the wrong thing and hurt your feelings. I might have to admit that I don't know things and ask a dumb question.
Yeah, and it's very intimate to have to talk with another person. It's so much easier to simply get a book, open it up, sit in the recliner and read. And what you're doing there is you're reading about another culture. But when you engage with another culture, that's when things begin to happen.
It takes the us and them away.
Yeah.
It's just the us.
Right. And if you're somebody that hates to be wrong, likes to be right, then that's gonna sort of fly in the face of what I talked about there. Because that sort of a thing has to be that guard, which I think what it is, that guard has to be let down there. Because if you feel like you're always right, you're never going to grow or grow very little. Now you might grow in the academic sense when you're learning more stuff here, but not in the relational heart-to-heart stuff. And I know that I've known many people who were stuck here, and getting that little trip down to the heart can be very, very hard, because that can be really scary for some folks, especially like if you've got somebody who starts to cry. Some people are really uncomfortable with that, and they may immediately start to say, no, don't cry, which means I don't like it when people cry. But, are you married? Do you have a husband or somebody that you trust in your home? Am I being personal? Sorry.
No personal. Gosh.
Okay.
Take me to coffee first. I'm engaged.
All right. Okay. All right. If there is someone else in your home that you trust, then moving towards the place of asking, how did that come across? Well, honey, you really talk to them like you were talking to a student, instead of as somebody who may love you, or you may decide that you love. They're so compassionate and caring. They don't want a teacher. They want somebody who can relate at the heart level.
Michael, one of the things that you said is you're intentional about having friendships that are outside your own culture. And I think that's something that a lot of us, because if we go to church or we go to, whatever, and we're kind of hanging out with the same people, it really does, in my view, make for a really boring life. And that's something that resonated with me that you were talking about. And I feel like that's an action item that I feel like I can do right now. So like this is the time to lean in and to not step away. We've got to feel comfortable to lean in. And like Amy was talking about kind of being uncomfortable. And I know I've had some uncomfortable, I feel like I'm not super well educated about, different, cultures and things like that. And I'm trying to lean into that. And I think friendships and meals, you were talking about that too. And that's one of the things, if you get to kind of break bread with someone and share that time. I know it's hard now because we're not really, we're social distancing. I don't really know how to do that. I know that there's virtual happy hours, but maybe other people have some ideas, but I think that would be something that would be helpful.
I have an African American neighbor. She moved here about a year ago from Nigeria. Wonderful lady, couple of kids, and she's had us over for dinner, and she has fixed the food that she grew up with, and we've had her over, and we fixed the food that we grew up with. We talk about food, we talk about life, talk about her experiences there, ours here, and it is so, I guess the word for me is it's so enriching. It makes me to have a much more rich life to be able to do that. We have Jewish friends, and it's been such a blessing to be able to have them invite us over to celebrate their Jewish feasts. And, you know, we've been over there for different ones, and they explain what it is. Oh, gosh, just a fantastic time. I just can't put words to how much of a blessing that it is. I love those times. I do not want to have my life filled with pasty white people. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Michael, so much for sharing your wisdom. I really enjoyed listening to the 6 things that your 6 tips and resources that you shared. It sounds like a lot of it is listening. And I've read something recently that you have to learn to listen in order to listen to learn.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I could appreciate what you're saying. Currently, right now, my wife and I, we're supposed to be in East Africa. We've covered 6 of the 7 continents.
Wow.
What we enjoy most is getting into other cultures. It increases your horizon completely.
Yeah.
When you go there, and we're normally out of the country for a month, because you can't make a quick stop, because you never learn who they are. But to get in there and to, jump on a bus, not be around all the time, go to the market, sit. There have been homes we've gone into, sit and eat with the people. It's an eye opener, and you really learn to appreciate who they are. I come from not a majority, but Black background. Grew up, but when I went to college, I was forced out of who I was.
Yeah.
And I was placed in an environment with kids just like me, but not the same as me, race. And that really began to expand, that the world is a community.
Yes, it is.
And it's not just, monolithic, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, I was sitting here smiling and chuckling, from the South, addressing the older person as Mr. and Mrs.
Yeah.
I still do that now.
Hey, good for you.
When I go in their rooms, I would say, Mr. Tom, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so.
Yeah.
It keeps me in my place and it keeps them in their place,
Great thought.
So it's quite, I smile at what you're saying. But I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it.
And by the way, the next time you take one of those 4-week trips, if you guys need anyone to carry your bags, please let me know.
We've been doing this for 20 years. This is the very first summer that we are unable to go somewhere outside of the country. We've done less traveling in country than, we've done more out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I'm asking my wife, where are we supposed to be right now? Because she normally sets the itinerary and what we're doing. This year we were going to do something different. We were going to take one of our students with us from her school, but but to get out there and to sit on a train with people, go out and sit in the market with them, it's, you learn to appreciate the world.
Right. And get away from the tourist spots.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what we would normally do. We would have somebody to take us into the culture. We were in South Africa last year, stopped through Dubai, right now I feel out of it because July is our month for travel.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you're saying. You need
Thank
to speak to more chaplains.
Yeah, you're right.
This has been wonderful. Does anybody, Jenny, did you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say, Michael, I really like how you establish rapport and then get into the questions.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for the families to see that you're not just there to, question, but you really want to get to know them. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I have a question for Winston.
It's important to go there and not have it come across that you're doing a checklist. Yeah,
you also said something good. You said something about the heart. I wrote something down here. You said something about the heart. H-E-A-R-T. I know it's somewhere here in my notes. Yeah, get on a heart level with people. Yeah, I really like that.
Absolutely.
I have a question for Winston. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So Winston, some people have answered this question already, but I'm curious what your first or second question is that you ask somebody when you're meeting them on your travels so that you can find out more about them or their background. What's one of the first questions you ask?
Normally I have a FOR, family, occupation. Those are the two things I jump into. I get to know who they are. I just tend to, I don't know, go and just jump in there. I don't know. My wife, I'm really an introvert. When my wife says I'm a talker.
Introverted talker.
I say, well, that's cool too, But I just, greet them. Hey man, what you doing? What do you do? You live in this area? Tell me about it,
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that.
Get their name.
You just go with the flow.
Right. I think I'm less hesitant for some reason in jumping in there with people. Most times we've traveled, we've been the only one of my color in the group.
Okay.
The group that we did see that was Black, they were traveling together in a bus of about 40 people, but on the majority, we've traveled outside of those like us, which doesn't create a different air for me because I pastor a church also. And most churches I've pastored have been in a multicultural setting,
Good.
So I'm used to jumping in there, even coming from America. I don't know, when you get to know people, boy, it can be, you learn a lot. Woo. When I go into the hospice and our homes and I'm sitting, I look to hear their stories.
Right.
I love the stories too.
They could tell you some of the most interesting stories of their life, it's just interesting. And I come home excited. Sometimes I tell my wife, I said, Ingrid, I spoke to this person today, such and such and such a thing, And you end up learning a lot. When you mention National Geographic, I get that monthly magazine, because I'm used to world travel.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to read up on other countries and so forth. Or if I've been there and I've seen it, I say to myself, oh, I've been there.
Isn't that a great feeling?
Oh, it's a great feeling. We don't regret any amount of money for travel.
Yeah.
Any amount.
It's worth it.
It's a wonderful thing.
Everything out there is something that God put his hand on.
Yes. You see it in pictures, but when you see it 360, what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. An experience is experience is nothing. Speechless, that's it. A
And that
picture
is-
with 1,000 words, but to experience it is speechless. And that's true.
I do want to second that. Winston just gets in there. And that's what everybody loves about him.
Good for you, Winston.
You know,
We're proud to have him.
I think that's awesome, and it also makes it easier to put other people at ease when they see that you're at ease.
yeah.
I love it.
Great laugh.
That's exactly how he is all the time.
Well, does anybody have any other questions or any comments or anything? Because we are so appreciative. This has been really, really, really awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Great
Yeah,
conversation.
Thank you, Michael.
It was
Yes,
you're
this
gonna
is Annette.
Oh, go ahead, Jeanette.
I'm sorry. Yes, this is Annette. And as a social worker, I just feel like it's kind of important for me to provide my background or my feedback on the subject. We did touch on international, interjecting ourselves internationally and learning the culture of others through a magnitude of communication and just kind of getting with the locals. But I kind of want to pull it back a little bit to our everyday accessibility to, diversity. And I find it very important and notable that when you come on a team or with an agency and the people around you look the same, that it's our responsibility to approach management and people that are in positions to hire others to, add some diversity to it. And I know this is a national subject happening right now, and I think that's what Michael kind of started off with, his story and his background on your upbringing, definitely molding the persons we become today. And in healthcare, we are immersed with all kinds of persons from different backgrounds. And when we are in small organizations and our small departments look the same, it's our responsibility to say something. I think that's, for me personally, where I value the diversity. I seek my nurses' feedback. I seek the health aides' feedback, and Michael, because he's my coworker, his feedback on how am I presenting myself out there, but also gaining that wisdom of how someone else's approach, helping build that bridge with a family that we are connecting with intimately on a daily basis or weekly basis. And if everyone does look the same, I think that's kind of the starter point where we can begin with locally, is just kind of tap into our manager and say, okay, we're all Caucasian here. We do need some persons from other backgrounds to join us because we have a lot to learn and we're learning the most from one another. It's accessible, it's quicker. So anyway, that's just my feedback. And I'm so appreciative for Michael being my coworker. I wish Winston would join us if he ever wanted to come over, because he sounds like a valuable resource as well. And so I just wanted, I guess that's my feedback on the subject, is, just kind of looking at our partners and collecting any kind of words of wisdom they have gathered over the years and the experience that they've had in the field and what has worked for them and what has not. So thank you. That's all I have.
That was great. Thank you.
She's awesome.
I love it. Well, we are super grateful that, Michael, you took the time today, and all of you that took your hour to spend with us. I think this is a very important subject. And those of us, we're working this every day. I mean, we're sort of living this, and we want to build each other up, inspire each other. And that's why we do what we do, and to provide amazing care to all of the citizens in Central Texas. So I applaud you and thank you, and everyone on this, everybody that's been here, that's taken the time. Thank you so much. So from the folks that Blue Water Homecare, Accountable Aging, and Seton Hospice, I appreciate you. So everybody have a great day, and we'll have another one in the next 2 weeks. So I don't know the topic yet, but we will keep you guys abreast of it. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.